What is up, guys? John back again with some more variations of item categorizers. Yeah, this was another idea that I wanted to try. And so I actually have two different versions of this model. So my original thought was that why can't we just have a hopper line like a normal set of item filters, except that you know any items come out like any items come out into their category like any items come out into their categories, instead of being like a normal filter, but like a categorizer. So yeah, why can't we just have a hopper line, a hopper pipe that we can divert items to where they are intended to go? And so this is a solution that I came up with. So this is quite a bit different from other categorizers or from others that even I have made. So we're still using a minecart to come and pick up the input items, but there is a few differences. So the input item return, or the index item return, is now going to be a part of the hopper pipe. So you can see that we have torches up here, and like this one is unlocked. So any items that come down the hopper pipe will now get pulled down here, and if the index were unlocked, it would go into the index. So basically what's going to happen is like whenever we, oh, that one got misplaced. Yeah, still doing some testing. But I think it's pretty stable now. So let's just throw some items in. So whenever we throw some items in, the hopper minecart on this model is going to get launched and it's going to start filling up. So this model, both of these rather, I got the item pickup to be about like 58, 59. So it takes almost a full stack before it goes to launch and check the index. So that'll be, a little bit faster than the previous model because it can just ferry more items at once. But anyway, the way that this one operates, the minecart comes out and this one, so the minecart parks right there, and whenever it is ready to pick up items, it'll come and be held here by a little hopper timer here. So under here I have a couple hoppers with 14 items. If we put any more items, that would increase the time and it would probably just pull out like a full stack. So I found 14 items to be kind of a good mix. But anyway, it's going to come and pick up items, and the hopper timer is going to basically control when it gets launched. And we have an observer line up here on the top. And whenever we do have items that are making it into their output, this is going to trigger the timer that basically tells the minecart if it's safe to launch again or not. So yeah, a couple of things about this system. So for one, we do have filter items inside the minecart hopper, but this is kind of a special case, and I don't think this is anything that anybody has done before. So previously we just put in like four filler items or 4 different filler items like in my last one, and they can get pulled out and put back in, things like that. But in this case, because we're returning the items in the hopper pipe at the top, so we don't need the hopper minecart to go over the chest here to drop the item back off in the index. What we're doing is actually using the hopper minecart as an item filter here. So we have a detector rail here that's going to detect any excess items in the minecart, and anything that is not the filler or the filter items are going to get pulled out. So this is, like an item filter that just uses the minecart itself as the top hopper. So that's how we control the items. So the items that are the filter items that are in the hopper, they never have to be taken out. They'll never get pulled out. And the hopper minecart, because we're using a powered activator rail here, it just comes down unlocked and pulls an item out of the index and then gets locked here. So whenever it passes back below the index, it cannot pull out any more items until it goes over the activator rail here. So anyway, that's this model. I'll give you another rundown. So it's pretty fast, but it's not exactly what I wanted when I was thinking about this design. So what I wanted is going to be more like the next model. So on this model, the minecart kind of does something special. So first of all, it's parked directly under the chest. So if we get some items here, as soon as we put the items in, it's going to start loading, right? So again, we're still using the same type of hopper clock to control the gate. So the minecart is going to come back down, it's going to unload, and it's going to choose its location, which is this here. And as soon as the items come out, they're going to start to trigger the rest of the system. But anyway, this minecart does something special. So what I wanted it to do was I wanted the minecart to pick up items, deliver them, and then as the items are still being sorted, instead of waiting like the other model, this is going to come and it's going to fill with more items. So then if the items are still being delivered to their output slice, the minecart is actually going to come and it's going to park here and wait. So this was an idea that I had to allow the hopper minecart to come down and unload and then come and fill up again while the system is still, sorting items, and then park here as long as it's needed, and then as soon as the system gets ready, then it's going to get launched. So we're using a switching rail here to switch the track back and forth, and yeah. So this one is going to be a lot faster than that one, but the real benefit comes whenever you have a lot of slices. So like remembering back to my first like real item categorizers like this, like if you wanted to make them like 40 blocks long or something like that, then the minecart would have to pick up an item, search the index, go back on top of the index and go all the way back to the beginning. Well, in this case, the minecart really just has to go below the index, dump the items off, and then come back. So while the items are being sorted, this minecart is going to fill with more items. So if you have a really big slice, you're going to see that this, or a really big sorter rather, you're going to see that this whole like waiting area is actually a benefit because you don't have to wait for, like especially one case that I was thinking about was like, hold on, let's pick one from here. So this is the last chest, the last output chest, right? So if we have one item of that, but we're following it because of course this can sort, like individual items. So if we have one item of that, but we're following it with like a full stack of another item, so the minecart's going to pick up that item due to the timer, it's going to wait. But now it's going to go dump that item, right? So as that item is still waiting to be sorted, like it's still making its way down the hopper line, the minecart is already filling up, So if you have a very long sorter and that single item is having to make its way all the way down to the very last chest, then the hopper minecart at least can be, full of items and waiting. So I do think it has quite a bit of a speed advantage. Um, I don't know if I mentioned it. Did I mention it? So I had to make a special little circuit on top, and the reason why is because this latching system, the way that it works is that when an item gets pulled out, it's going to trigger the latch to unlock this hopper. But whenever the item is coming back with the rest of the stack of items, when the item is coming back down the hopper line, this hopper is going to be unlocked and it's going to deposit the item back into the index, right? So if we have a hopper stream or a hopper speed stream of items coming down, and then this hopper or this comparator locks the hopper, then we're still going to have an item like stuck in here. So we'll get our index item, but then we'll have another item stuck instead of going into the output. So that would actually be detrimental to the system, because the next time we pulled out an item from this index, then that would fall down, and then that would trigger it to relock, and so yeah, it would be a mess. So to correct that, I actually had to make a little time delay circuit. So I left that on the ground here in case anybody wanted to look at it. What this does is it simply just takes the first item of a stack of items, and it produces a time delay between that and the rest of the items. So it's going to give it a little bit of delay, and then the rest of the items are going to come out at hopper speed to go to the output. But yeah, so it's quite a mouthful. So this model was actually extremely complicated to figure this this little circuit out. So I'll kind of tell you like what it does and why it was so complicated to actually finish that model. So imagine like we have a latch here. So whenever we put items into the system and the minecart is beginning to pick up items, so then the timer is going to activate and it's going to try to launch the minecart, right? So imagine that this redstone lamp is the minecart launch. So the timer is connected to this latch, and so whenever it's ready to launch the minecart, it's going to launch, right? Okay, so now the minecart is launched and it's dumping its items, but imagine that we still have more items in the chest. So what's going to happen is that the minecart's going to come back, it's going to refill, and now the timer is going to finish, and it's going to say, you know, like, I want to launch. But we're still waiting for items to sort, you know, like they're still waiting to be finished. So for that, we have to have another latch. So this latch controls the first. So whenever the items are done sorting, then this is going to trip. That's going to allow the minecart to launch. And then whenever the minecart completes the cycle, or if I decide, you know, like I want to put more items in, so then the minecart's going to come back, it's going to refill, and then this is going to trip, and it's going to allow the minecart to launch. When the minecart gets back and the timer gets finished, or rather the sorting gets finished, it's going to turn off. Okay, so to just explain what this is, so this is a latch whose output is capable of resetting itself. So we have a self-resetting latch, but while it's resetting itself, it's also powering another latch that when on, its output is capable of canceling the first latch's ability to reset itself. So it's a latch that can reset itself, that powers another latch that is capable of preventing the first latch from resetting itself. So it took me a while to be able to figure this out. You know, like to have the launch and then like, oh hey, I still have more items in here, and then to have the, you know, the relaunch, and then to have the, you know, the reset. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it, with what it does, but yeah, it's really complicated. So I'm gonna, of course, have a world download in case anybody wants to check this out, play with it, see if they can make it more compact or better. But I wanted to say, if anybody did want to try to extend this for a very long distance, So we have a reset line here that has to trip. And so what do you do if you need it to reset? Or rather, if you have a very long line here and you run out of like power down the redstone line. So of course you can add a repeater, and then to continue to power the dropper here, you have to add dust. And you'd have to do the same thing on the front. So these are actually observers that are detecting items moving through the chest when they're going out. So to correct any length issues that you might have on this, you can put a repeater here, and then in place of, because that's an observer, that still has to power the dust line, then you can just put dust like that. So yeah, it's pretty simple to expand. Just keep an eye on the direction of the signal, like this one has to run this way, that one has to run that way. But yeah, I've tested it quite a few times to try to really get the timing down, and I think that they are pretty stable. So if anybody wants to experiment, feel free to. And I guess that's all. The only other thought I had for an item categorizer was using water streams on blue ice or something, So I'll have to see if I can really work something out with that. But it was kind of a simple idea to just use a water stream, like pretty similar to this. Use a dropper elevator to just dump items into a water stream, and then have the water stream be diverted to bring the items down to the output. But I don't know. It turned out to be pretty complicated the last time I tried, so we'll see if I can actually come up with something with that. But that's it for now, so I will see y'all in the next one.